Okay, in this video, you're going to get the true meaning of what casting of lots is. So in Acts, we see the 11 apostles are trying to replace Judas, who just finished basically earlier, killed himself, and now they need another apostle, someone that was around when Christ was doing all his ministry, including being carried away to heaven. So we see over here, one of the first times we hear Lot mentioned in the New Testament, right here. So verse 23, and they appointed two, Joseph, called Barsabbas, who was surnamed Justus, and Matthias. And they prayed and said, Thou, Lord, which knowest the hearts of all men, show whether of these two thou hast chosen, that he may take part in this ministry and apostleship, from which Judas by transgression fell, that he might go to his own place. They gave forth their lots. A lot fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. Now, some people, and I've watched a few videos on this, might think that, well, this is just superstition. They're just, sometimes people use bones, sometimes they use rocks, stones, pebbles, whatever, throwing things on the ground, and then whatever happens, and that's how God picks things, kind of like gambling. So, I am going to share my thoughts as to what I think this means. Let's go to another instance of this happening. It happens a few times, but I wanted to take you to, where is it here? Yeah, right here. Jonah. So here's another example of casting of lots. So Jonah gets word from God saying, go to Nineveh. He says, no, gets a ship, and gets on a ship, and then behold, there was a mighty tempest in the sea. So the ship was like to be broken. It was going to get ripped apart. Then the mariners were afraid and cried every man unto his God, cast forth their wares that they were in the ship in the sea to lighten it of them. They didn't want the ship to sink, so they threw a bunch of stuff over, probably food as well. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, basically in the inside of the ship, very reminiscent of the disciples rowing like crazy while Jesus was asleep. And he lay and was fast asleep. So the shipmaster came to him and said unto him, What meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call upon thy God, because everyone else was doing this. They're all praying to the God. Why is this happening to us? So they said to Jonah, like he's sleepyhead, Arise, call upon thy God, if so be that God will think upon us that we perish not. They said everyone to his fellow, Come, let us cast lots that we might know for sure whose cause this evil is upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. So again, this looks like a little bit of superstition here, but I think, this is my humble opinion, I think what was happening is they were casting a vote. They're basically, this is the only guy that's sleeping, everyone else is praying to their gods, and they basically pointed a finger and said, this guy's got to be guilty of something. So then they said unto him, Tell us, we pray, for whose cause this evil is upon us? What is thine occupation? Whence comest thou? What is thy country? And of what people art thou? So he stood out from the rest of them. They didn't know who he was, where he came from, or any of that kind of stuff. They were all afraid, because they all worshiped their God and were asking for mercy and all this, and he was the only one that did not do that. So I think they singled him out. To me, this is what casting lots is. Having a vote and picking someone based on your observation. So here is, to me, the original definition of casting lots. Just think of it like casting a vote. It's the same thing, casting your ballot. You're voting. So let's go over to Genesis, the first instance of casting the first lot. First time we ever see this. All right, here. Where are we here? Tower of Babel, Abraham's call, plagues, deception, Bethel, Abraham, and Lot separate right here. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds. This is Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 13. Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. And Abraham said unto Lot, that there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we are brethren. For we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, we'll come back to this, then I will go to the right. So to Lot, if you choose the left, I'll go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him, kind of the same thing as we see in Jonah and then also with the disciples. Then Lot chose him all the plain of the Jordan. And Lot journeyed east. He went to the right. And they separated themselves, the one from the other. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent toward Sodom. So Lot went right. So this is the first instance we get of casting a lot, choosing. Abraham gave him a choice. He said, if you go to the right, I'm going to go to the left. Let's take a vote. Which way do you want to go? Lot chose to go to the right. So Abraham went to the left. It's kind of interesting, right? So this is the first instance of casting a lot based on this guy's name, Lot, which is Abram's nephew. So I think from there on, whenever we see casting lots, we're basically looking at choice. So back to the disciples, you have the 11 disciples having to choose between these two guys, and I believe they had a vote. All in favor? Lift up your left hand if you want this guy, Matthias. All in favor if you want justice? Raise your right hand. More people raised their left hand, voted for Matthias. And there it was. And then back to Jonah, they cast lots. They all looked at Jonah because he stood out. They didn't know where he was. He was the only guy that was sleeping. Everyone else was praying to their God. So they're basically, you could almost look at it like they pointed at Jonah and said, there's something wrong here. We all agree. We're all in unison here. Based on our vote, Jonah, there's something up with this guy. So then they're asking, who are you? Where do you come from? All this kind of stuff. They didn't want to toss him overseas, but they were put in a real pickle. So hopefully that helps. If you look at it from this perspective that people are voting with their conscience, making a decision. If it's multiple people, they're deciding who they want to vote. It would be very easy to accomplish if you had like 3 people, even the Roman soldiers that were dividing Christ's clothing after he died on the cross. They cast lots. They were choosing which clothes they wanted. They were picking clothes. So they were dividing the clothes. One wanted a garment, one wanted something else. Maybe it's the sandals, I don't know. But they were casting lots. To me, that it makes sense to me logically that this would be a form of voting. Very similar to us saying today, cast your ballot, cast your vote, make a decision. And then, so hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense to me anyway in my head. So if you got something out of this, let me know in the video. If you ever thought about this, casting lots, does it make more sense to you now? Are you more confused? What's going on? Feel free to comment and don't forget to subscribe. See you in another video. Bye for now.